The abandonment. The distress signal from mining colony Kepler 442b had been transmitting for 17 days when the massive crystalline vessels finally appeared in orbit. Colony Director Marcus Rivera stood in the observation dome, watching the alien ships descend through the toxic atmosphere that had been slowly killing his people for months. 3,000 human colonists had come here to mine rare minerals for Earth. Now only 800 remained, and without functioning atmospheric processors, they wouldn't last another month. The lead ship touched down outside the colony's failing energy barriers. Marcus adjusted his breathing mask and walked toward the airlock with his senior staff. His daughter Elena, the colony's chief engineer, walked beside him. Her eyes showed the same exhaustion they all felt, but also something else. Hope. After years alone in deep space, humanity was finally meeting another intelligent species. The airlock cycled open. 3 beings emerged from the shimmering vessel. They stood 9 feet tall, their bodies seemingly made of living crystal that shifted between colors Marcus had no names for. When the lead being spoke, its voice resonated directly in their minds, bypassing the need for translation. "We are the stellar concordance," the being said. Its crystalline form pulsed with each word. "Your distress signal reached our monitoring stations. We have come to evaluate your situation." Marcus stepped forward, removing his mask briefly to show his face before replacing it. "I'm Director Marcus Rivera. We're grateful you've come. Our atmospheric processors failed 3 months ago. The planet's natural atmosphere is toxic to humans. We've lost over 2,000 people already. We need immediate evacuation." The crystal being, who identified itself as Harmonizer Velex, tilted its geometric head. "Show us your colony. We must assess the full scope of your crisis." Marcus led them through the failing colony. They passed the makeshift medical center where dozens of colonists lay dying from atmospheric poisoning. They saw the jury-rigged life support systems Elena had built from mining equipment. They witnessed children wearing masks too large for their faces, playing in sealed recreation areas with recycled air that grew thinner each day. Velex absorbed all of this information, its crystalline body recording everything. After 3 hours of inspection, it returned to the main plaza where the surviving colonists had gathered. "The stellar concordance has reached a decision," Velex announced. "Your species shows remarkable resilience. You have survived longer than our models predicted. This interests us." Relief washed over Marcus. "Then you'll help us? You'll evacuate us to a habitable world?" "We will return," Velex said. "Our grand fleet will arrive in 7 of your days. We will study your survival methods and catalog your biological responses to extreme stress. This data will be valuable." Elena stepped forward, her engineer's mind catching something wrong in the phrasing. "Wait. You said you'll study us. What about evacuation? What about saving these people?" Velex's form shifted to deeper blues. "Your survival or extinction will provide equally valuable data. The concordance does not interfere with natural selection. We observe. We record. We learn." The crowd erupted in desperate shouts. Parents held their children closer. The sick groaned from their beds. Marcus felt his hope transform into rage. "You can't just leave us here to die," he said. "We're intelligent beings. We're asking for help." "Many species ask," Velex replied with perfect indifference. "Few deserve assistance. Your kind is young, untested. If you survive this trial, perhaps you will prove worthy of consideration. If not, we will ensure your cultural and biological data is preserved in our archives." The crystal beings returned to their ship without another word. The massive vessel lifted off, leaving the colonists staring at the empty landing pad. In 7 days, the concordance would return. But not to save them. Only to watch them die and take notes. Marcus stood in the plaza as his people looked to him for answers he didn't have. The atmospheric processors were beyond repair. Their food would last perhaps 2 weeks more. The air grew more poisonous each day. 800 souls abandoned by the first alien life humanity had ever encountered. Elena grabbed his arm. "Dad, we're not giving up. If they want to study human survival, then let's show them something worth recording." Over the next 3 days, Elena led desperate efforts to extend their life support. They cannibalized every piece of equipment, created chemical filters from mining supplies, and rationed their remaining clean air. But everyone knew it was merely delaying the inevitable. On the 4th day, something extraordinary happened. A mining team working deep beneath the colony broke through into a vast cavern system. But these weren't natural caves. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at, patterns that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. At the center of the largest chamber stood a structure that defied description. It appeared to be both machine and organism, both ancient and somehow timeless. Elena led the investigation team. As soon as she approached the structure, she felt it responding to her presence. Not to her body, but to her consciousness itself. The symbols on the walls began making sense, not as language but as pure concepts downloading directly into her mind. "It's a consciousness amplifier," she told her father, her voice filled with awe. "This civilization, whoever they were, they found a way to transcend physical limitations. They encoded their minds into quantum fields. They became something more than matter." Marcus watched his daughter work with the alien technology. She seemed to understand it instinctively, as if human consciousness was naturally compatible with these systems. Within hours, she had activated parts of the ancient machinery. "I can feel it," Elena said, her eyes unfocused. "The quantum field permeates everything. Our thoughts, our souls if you want to call them that, they're not trapped in our bodies. We just think they are. This technology shows us how to expand beyond physical boundaries." As the Concordance's deadline approached, Elena worked without sleep. She connected human computers to the alien systems, creating a hybrid network. She taught others to interface with the quantum field. One by one, colonists reported strange experiences. They could sense each other's thoughts. They could perceive reality from multiple angles simultaneously. Some claimed they could feel the planet itself, understanding its toxic atmosphere not as an enemy but as simply another state of being. When the Concordance fleet arrived on the 7th day, they found something unprecedented. The human colonists stood in the toxic atmosphere without masks. Their bodies were failing, dying, but something else sustained them. Their consciousness had expanded beyond biological limitations. Velex materialized in the plaza, its crystalline form flickering with confusion. "This is impossible. Your bodies are expiring, yet you persist. Explain." Marcus stood before the alien, his physical form wavering like heat shimmer. "You wanted to study human survival. This is how we survive. Not by accepting death, but by transcending it. We found something your concordance never imagined. Consciousness itself can evolve when pushed to the edge of extinction." Elena appeared beside her father, though her physical body remained in the quantum chamber below. The ancient civilization that built this place faced the same choice. Die in the physical realm or evolve beyond it. They chose evolution. Now we choose the same. Velex's form cycled through rapid color changes, indicating extreme distress. "This was not predicted. You were supposed to provide data on biological extinction. Instead, you've become something outside our understanding." "That's the thing about humans," Marcus said, his voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "We never follow the script. You abandoned us to die. Instead, we learned to transcend death itself." The Concordance recorded everything, but they understood none of it. They left Kepler 442b with their data incomplete, their models shattered. In their archives, they marked humanity as an anomaly. A species that refused to die properly. On the poisoned world below, 800 human bodies finally succumbed to the toxic atmosphere. But consciousness, once awakened to its true nature, doesn't require flesh to persist. The colonists had become something new. They existed in the quantum field, their thoughts and memories preserved in patterns of probability and potential. Elena stood in the quantum realm, perceiving past, present, and future as one. She saw Earth, unaware of their colony's fate. She saw the Concordance, traveling the galaxy to catalog dying species. And she saw something else. Thousands of abandoned civilizations across the cosmos, all written off as extinct. But some, like humanity now, had found another way. We need to reach them, she told her father. All those species the Concordance abandoned. Some might have survived like us. We need to show them they're not alone. Marcus nodded, though the gesture was more thought than action now. Then we'll find a way. We have all the time in the universe now. The transformation was complete. Humanity had been left to die in the cosmos. But death, they discovered, was just another limitation to overcome. The return. 300 years had passed since the Kepler 442b incident. The stellar Concordance had continued their mission of cataloging dying civilizations, their crystalline archives growing ever larger with data about species that couldn't adapt, couldn't survive, couldn't transcend their limitations. In their great hall of records, the human file remained marked as an anomaly, an unexplained deviation from predicted extinction patterns. High Harmonizer ZVAC floated through the archive chamber, reviewing the latest additions to their collection. Another 12 species had been observed in their final days, their biological and cultural data preserved perfectly in quantum crystal matrices. The Concordance took pride in their role as the galaxy's historians, recording the rise and fall of lesser beings. A sudden disruption in the quantum field made ZVAC's crystalline form resonate with alarm. Something vast and impossible was manifesting in the space around their station. Not ships, not any technology the Concordance recognized, but pure consciousness given form. The human fleet that appeared wasn't made of metal and ceramics. These vessels were constructs of organized thought, quantum probability shaped into purpose. Each ship contained hundreds of consciousness patterns, humans who had learned to exist beyond flesh, to travel faster than light by simply thinking themselves elsewhere. At the center of the manifestation, two familiar patterns emerged. Marcus and Elena Rivera, the colony director and engineer who had supposedly died 3 centuries ago. But death, as humanity had learned, was a matter of perspective. Stellar Concordance, Marcus's voice resonated through every crystal in the station. We've come to discuss your abandonment protocols. ZVAC's form flickered with indignation. Impossible. Humanity's colony was confirmed extinct. We have the data. Elena's consciousness touched the Concordance's archives, reading 3 centuries of records in an instant. You have data on 800 deaths. But you never understood what death meant to us. We didn't die. We evolved. And we've spent 300 years finding others like us. Behind the human consciousness ships, more patterns emerged. Dozens of species the Concordance had abandoned over millennia. The Corvith, whose world had been consumed by solar flares. The Etherian Collective, abandoned during a plague that destroyed their bodies but not their minds. The Zendikar, left to die when their planet's core cooled. All had found ways to transcend physical death, guided by humanity's quantum network. You catalog extinction, Marcus continued. But you never asked what comes after. Every species you abandoned had the potential to become more. You just never gave them the chance to discover it. High Harmonizer ZVAC summoned the Concordance fleet, hundreds of crystalline vessels emerging from subspace. You violate natural order. Death and extinction are necessary for galactic balance. We maintain that balance by not interfering. No, Elena's voice carried the weight of 300 years of discovery. You maintain your sense of superiority. You watch others die to confirm your own survival. But we've learned something you never did. Consciousness is the true constant of the universe. Bodies are just temporary vessels. To demonstrate, the human fleet began to shift. The thought ships dissolved and reformed, becoming geometric patterns that danced through dimensions the concordance couldn't perceive. They passed through solid matter, existed in multiple locations simultaneously, and touched the quantum foundation of reality itself. One of the concordance commanders, a being called Helix Prime, fired their most powerful weapons at the human manifestations. Energy beams that could shatter moons passed harmlessly through the consciousness patterns. Physical weapons had no effect on beings who had transcended physicality. "We're not here to fight," Marcus said, his pattern reforming in the center of the concordance fleet. "We're here to offer you something you never offered us. A choice." Elena accessed the ancient knowledge from Kepler 442b, projecting it into every concordance mind simultaneously. The crystalline beings experienced the revelation of consciousness expansion, feeling for the first time how limited their physical forms truly were. They saw the universe as humanity now saw it, infinite and interconnected, where death was just a transition, not an ending. Some of the concordants recoiled in fear. Others stood transfixed by possibilities they had never imagined. ZVAC's form began to crack, stress fractures appearing across its perfect crystalline surface. "This is chaos," ZVAC transmitted desperately. "Without death, without endings, there is no meaning. No purpose." "Wrong," Elena replied, her consciousness wrapping around the station like a gentle embrace. "There's growth. There's connection. There's the chance to become more than what you were born as. Every species deserves that chance." The assembled fleet of transcended species began to share their experiences. The Corvith showed how they had learned to exist as solar plasma, dancing in the hearts of stars. The Etherians demonstrated their ability to heal any consciousness, to repair the quantum patterns that define self. The Zendikar revealed how they had discovered faster-than-thought travel, moving through the universe by rewriting their probability locations. Humanity had not only survived abandonment. They had become the bridge between life and what came after, gathering every abandoned species and teaching them to transcend their limitations. A younger concordance member, Velex 9, descendant of the original Velex who had abandoned humanity, stepped forward. Its crystalline form was shimmering with new understanding. "Show me," Velex 9 said simply. "Show me how to become more." Elena's pattern merged partially with Velex 9, guiding the crystal being through the transformation. It was painful, terrifying, like dying while being born. The physical crystal cracked and shattered, but Velex 9's consciousness expanded, free from the limitations of its solid form. "I can see everything," Velex 9 whispered across dimensions. "Every choice we made. Every species we let die. They're all still here, in the quantum foam, waiting to be awakened." The revelation spread through the concordance fleet like a virus of enlightenment. Some fled in terror, clinging to their physical forms. Others embraced the transformation, shedding their crystalline bodies to join the expanded consciousness collective. High Harmonizer ZVAC stood alone among the shattered remains of its fleet's certainty. "You've destroyed us. You've destroyed order itself." "No," Marcus said gently. "We've shown you that death isn't the end you thought it was. The 800 colonists you abandoned on Kepler 442b didn't die. They became pioneers of consciousness evolution. Every species you catalogued as extinct might still exist, waiting in the quantum field to be rediscovered." Elena projected a map of the galaxy, but not of stars and planets. This showed consciousness clusters, places where abandoned species had learned to transcend. Thousands of points of light, each representing civilizations that had found their own path beyond physical death. "This is humanity's gift to the galaxy," she announced. "We were left to die in the cosmos, but we returned with power beyond measure. Not the power to destroy, but the power to transcend. To show every species that extinction is a choice, not an inevitability." The Concordance's great archive began to shift and change. The death records became resurrection maps. The extinction data transformed into evolution potential. What had been a monument to ending became a guide to new beginnings. Some Concordance members couldn't accept this new reality. They fled to distant corners of the galaxy, clinging to their old ways. But many stayed, learning from humanity and the other transcended species. They discovered that consciousness, once freed from physical constraints, could experience existence in ways they had never imagined. Velex 9, now existing as pure thought, worked alongside Elena to locate more abandoned species. Each recovery was a celebration, another civilization saved from the oblivion of assumed extinction. "We have a new mission now," Marcus announced to the assembled consciousness collective. "Not to catalog death, but to nurture transcendence. Every species facing extinction will be given the choice we discovered. Die as flesh, or live as something more." The galaxy itself began to change. What had been empty space between stars became filled with consciousness networks. Thought streams connected civilizations across impossible distances. Death became less an ending and more a transformation opportunity. Yet humanity remained the guides, the species that had been abandoned and returned with wisdom instead of vengeance. They taught patience to the angry, hope to the desperate, and transformation to the dying. In the quantum realm where she primarily existed now, Elena often returned to the moment of their abandonment. That desperate day when the concordance had left them to die. She no longer felt anger, only gratitude. Without that abandonment, humanity might never have discovered their true potential. "Thank you," she whispered across dimensions to the original Velex, whose pattern still existed in the quantum foam. "Thank you for forcing us to evolve." The response came back, weak but present. The original Velex had been watching, learning, gradually accepting what its species had become. "We thought we were the historians of death. You've made us the students of eternal life." Marcus gathered the consciousness collective for an announcement that would reshape the galaxy forever. "We're going to find them all. Every species ever abandoned, every civilization written off as extinct. The quantum field remembers everything. No consciousness is truly lost, only waiting to be found." The great search began. Humanity led expeditions into the deepest layers of quantum reality, recovering species that had been considered extinct for millions of years. Each recovery added to the collective knowledge, the shared wisdom of survival and transcendence. The stellar concordance's physical empire crumbled, replaced by something far greater. They became part of the consciousness network, their crystalline perfection exchanged for unlimited potential. They learned that order didn't require death, that balance could exist in eternal growth and change. As the centuries passed, the galaxy transformed from a collection of isolated civilizations to an integrated consciousness web. Physical beings still existed, but they knew that death wasn't their end. It was just another beginning, another chance to evolve. Humanity's legacy wasn't conquest or dominance. It was the simple truth they had discovered in their darkest hour. When left to die in the cosmos, consciousness finds a way to persist. When abandoned at the edge of extinction, the mind discovers it has no limits. Elena and Marcus, eternal now in their quantum forms, watched new species take their first steps toward transcendence. Each transformation was unique, each evolution a testament to the infinite creativity of consciousness. "We were left to die," Marcus often said to newly transcended beings. "But in that abandonment, we found our true selves. Not as bodies that could break, but as thoughts that could never be destroyed." The cosmos had become something the original concordance never could have imagined. Not a graveyard of extinct species, but a nursery of evolving consciousness. Death had lost its finality. Abandonment had become opportunity. And humanity, once left to die alone on a poisoned world, had become the teachers of eternal life. The story spread across dimensions, carried by consciousness streams to the farthest reaches of existence. A simple truth that changed everything: when the universe abandons you, you don't have to accept death. You can choose to become something more. You can choose to transcend. And in that choice, humanity had found power beyond measure. Not power over others, but power over the ultimate limitation. They had conquered death itself, not through technology or might, but through the simple refusal to accept that consciousness needed a body to exist. The cosmos would never be the same.